swear I only just watched one of these Bruce Willis movies. And this is the second one in a row with Bruce Willis. That's a spoiler. Let's get into this, and I'm going to spoil this movie, by the way. It is called A Day to Die. Yeah, it is the latest shitty Bruce Willis movie. It's directed by Wes Miller, who is at least the third Miller that has directed a shitty Bruce Willis movie with Bruce Willis that I know of. So it was directed by him. It's written by Scott Malice, Rab Berry, and Wes Miller. 3 writers. Don't like too many chefs in the kitchen. But we've got Kevin Dillon, Bruce Willis, and Frank Grillo in this movie. And a really cool villain in this one, actually, played by a man named Leon, who's really cool in this. But, all right, look at this poster. You see Bruce Willis, you see Frank Grillo, and you see Kevin Dillon. All right. Which one do you want to be the leading man of this movie? Do you want Bruce Willis? You don't. Do you want Kevin Dillon? Or would you like it to be Frank Grillo, who's kind of cool? Well, tough shit, because the leading man in this movie is Kevin Dillon. Awesome. Now, in order to give you, this movie's plot is kind of batshit insane. It starts with this fucking racist militia terrorism plot where they've got like hostages and stuff. And so all these cops have kind of got to bust up this hostage situation. So they get the all clear to go do that, bust up this hostage situation. And they're all in this building, the hostages and shit. And I've never seen this before, probably because it's fucking stupid, but I've never seen a movie before where they decide to bust up a hostage situation with fucking bazookas. So they fire rockets into this place. It starts fucking going up. Anyway, they go in there to start taking out the hostage takers. And there's landmines and shit in this building too. So all this crumbling shit could have just fallen on landmines and just fucking blown people up. Anyway, it's a traumatic hostage experience which puts some of our characters in a dark place for when it takes place in the future. At first, I thought they were going to do the Bruce Willis movie thing of showing us something cool and going back in time, but they didn't do that, so I appreciate it. Instead, what we get is this sort of weird, could have been cool, but not quite thought out kind of crime story. I mean, firstly, Frank Grillo should have been in the Kevin Dillon role. Unfortunately, I'm going to bet Frank Grillo costs a little more money than Kevin Dillon does. And whilst he's in this movie more than Bruce Willis, Frank Grillo probably, I don't know, maybe he did 2 or 3 weekends rather than 1. Because he's not in this much. He's not in much the first half at all. So it's mostly the Kevin Dillon and the B actors kind of show. So you get what Kevin Dillon is doing, and then you get that interspiced with Leon and his gangster buddies on their side of the story. And what it is, well, Kevin Dillon's cop character guns down a gangster, and Leon's like, well, you owe me money now because this guy was a useful worker and we've got your missus, so you've got like till tonight to get me $2 million. Here's how you do it. And so Kevin Dillon gets his hostage situation cop buddies from that situation to help him steal some money and pay it, get his wife back. Thinking to myself, well, why don't you, instead of going to steal the money, why don't you just lie, yeah, I've got your money, and then just go get your wife back. And no, they don't do it like that. But, so they do it. There's this whole gunfight. Most of Leon's gangster buddies are killed. In fact, all of them, I think. And it's just him standing. And he's like, oh, wait, before you kill me, it's Bruce Willis is really the bad guy. And we should all take him down in his operation. And they're like, okay. So now Leon, he's been fucking with these guys all movie, he's now joined forces with them, and they're all going to take out Bruce Willis. And I'm like, that's a bit of a stretch in characterization and totally a complete 180 flip for like all these characters and stuff. But I'm alright, fine, go take out Bruce Willis. And it ends up being part of this really awful shootout. I'm sorry, but it's so bad. I want this to be tense and kind of fun and interesting. Unfortunately, You've got really bad broken glass effects. You've got really bad bullet hole effects. And the blood spatter either looks like Coca-Cola kind of stuff, or it looks like they've taken snowflake effects and just made them red. I don't know if they did that or not. This follows the trend of the previous Bruce Willis movie, where even though he's like the main big bad of this movie, and he's also, for the second movie in a row, a corrupt cop. Great. Look, you're bringing out 1 million of these a year. At least like make him a corrupt cop the movie after this, just for something different. But he has very few lines of dialogue like he did in the Luke Wilson movie, Gasoline Alley. So they're giving him even less to do and he's still probably getting paid. There's also a scene in this movie where Kevin Dillon's brother, no, it's not Matt, and him have this big bust up because they were both in that hostage thing at the start. And they have this big bust up, and then after the bust up, this is not a direct quote. This is going to be like me paraphrasing it. But here's pretty much the gist of the conversation after their bust up. This is Kevin. Kevin's like, hey, dude, can you help me? My wife might die. And his brother's like, she'll die anyway. And Kevin's like, she's pregnant? And then his brother's like, well, all right then. I hope it's a girl. What kind of dialogue and moment is that? That's really weird. Look, this movie is a really weird hodgepodge. I guess there's enough plot to last 1 hour and 45, which is a good 15 minutes longer than usual for these movies. But I feel like it turns into a completely different movie at some point. So you've got the start, where it's this gangster kind of cop thing. Then you've got this other thing where he's got to steal money from other bad guys in order to pay off the main drug bad guy. And then the bad guy, even after all these like men are dead, joins forces with the cops. And this team of cops also has like this one black dude in it. I shit you not, he's the first one to die. And I'm like, really? Really? I mean, most of them die, but the black one first, like, great. So pretty much anyone, not a main character, dies. But this movie is kind of a wild ride, just in terms of how wacky and batshit it is, and also in terms of how really kind of cliched it is too. So I like that this movie tries. I mean, it's obviously a guy who's never done a Bruce Willis movie before, so he's actually kind of trying to make this interesting, maybe. But it just kind of falls apart and it doesn't really make any sense. So I'm going to give this a 3. Yeah, about standard for a shitty Bruce Willis movie. But at least the villain's interesting for most of it. So I'll give it that. They give him enough characterization. Usually in these shitty Bruce Willis movies, right, they'll give a villain heaps of stuff to do, and the villain is really B-grade and shit. This guy, Leon, who I recognize from Oz, he's a bit of a character actor and stuff. Even still, like, I know this guy can act. So I see him in the role, and he's smooth, he's menacing, he's well, sometimes smart. No one's too smart in this movie. It gets pretty dumb. But with the material that he has, I feel like he worked with it the best. Go figure. So yeah, there's some interesting things here, but at the end of the day, it's still a cheap Bruce Willis shitfest. And yes, he's in it. Is it 10 minutes? This time it felt like 5. It's a longer movie though, but it doesn't mean he's in it more. He's probably still only in it for a weekend. So yeah, 3 out of 10. Can we get like maybe months or, well, years until the next Bruce Willis movie? That would be awesome. So I felt like I just reviewed one. It was like Bruce Willis, Batman, Bruce Willis. Fuck, I'm glad there's not another Batman movie out. Alright, I don't want to talk about this movie anymore.